Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. This is the Prepared Suburbanite. Got some thoughts for this week's video. There's an awful lot of stuff been going on over the last few days or so. The Russian invasion of Ukraine, the Canadian trucker, whatever it was that happened in Ottawa, Canada, and currently exactly what's going on in the economy at our southern border, the immigration issue, a lot of stuff going on. The question that I'm going to try to pense about this afternoon is who's the winner and who's the loser. So stick around, I'll share my thoughts. So if you've been paying any attention to the news over the last few days, you know that there are all kinds of shenanigans going on at the Russian-Ukrainian border right now. According to the latest news broadcast that I heard early this morning was that the invasion is already taken place, that the Russian parliament has approved Biden's plans. Biden has decided that he is going to reclassify certain eastern regions of Ukraine and call them really Russian territories, and he's sending peacekeepers in to the Ukraine to keep the peace, obviously. Well, you don't send peacekeepers into a country if you're not invited, and I haven't seen that the government of Ukraine has invited anybody in to peace any keeps or keeps any peace. So you figure it out for yourself if Putin's really being honest with all that. I've got a good friend that's a Ukrainian national who's living here in the United States right now. She's terribly worried about her family and her parents that live in Kiev, and I think you all know that my son's grandson is in the U.S. Army and has been deployed to that region over there to do whatever the U.S. troops are going to do. So yeah, it gets a little personal for me. Ukraine has been a sovereign country for at least 1,000 years, best I can tell. It doesn't seem logical that Putin could actually ever get away with saying, oh yeah, they're part of Russia. Now, they may have been part of the Soviet Union when the Soviet Union was so ensconced in expansion in the eastern part of Europe there, but you know, like Obama said, the Cold War ended over 20 years ago while he was in a debate with Mitt Romney at the presidential campaign trail before he was elected president, I think the first time. And bottom line, the Cold War stuff, actually Mitt Romney was right. If he was right about anything, yeah, Russia was the biggest geopolitical adversary that we're facing, and it sure is coming true this week. The Ukraine is a pretty cool place. After conversations with my friend from the Ukraine, she describes it as a wonderful place to be from. She likes it here in the United States a whole lot better, I think, but we'll see how that turns out. But folks that are living in the Ukraine right now, they're the losers. Putin's the winner. In fact, Putin's been calling the shots all along, and all we've been doing is reacting. And that's not a position of strength. So, yeah, Biden issued a bunch of economic sanctions over the last 24 hours or so. and I'm wondering, what did he wait so long for? It's pretty easy to undo a sanction as a reward for good behavior, but waiting until they actually commit bad behavior and then punish them, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem to work that way. I've raised 3 kids. Didn't work that way with me raising kids. So I don't think it really works that way in the geopolitical stratosphere either. So the other issue that took up an awful lot of news over the last few days was the Canadian trucker strike. They descended in Ottawa, and the Canadian government reacted like totalitarian dictators. The Emperor Trudeau has bypassed everybody's rights in Canada. I'm sure that their constitution reads a little bit differently than ours does, but still, without due process of law, he was able to confiscate people's assets for participating in the demonstrations, for contributing to the cause. Folks have found that their bank accounts have been frozen, that their assets have been frozen, and that their certain privileges, like driver's licenses and things like that, maybe have been curtailed. And you know, when that happens without due process, you're really talking about dictatorships here. And, you know, while I really hate to say bad things about our Canadian neighbors, because I've got a number of friends and relatives that live in Canada, and they're all solid people. I can't believe that this is going to be the future for Canada. I suspect that Trudeau will have his real awakening real soon. And the other things that are going on here, if you haven't been watching, the stock market is tanking right now. I think the NASDAQ is definitely in correction territory. The S&P 500 is in correction territory, I think. And the Dow is getting real close to being there. So once all three enter the correction, then they'll say, okay, we're in a correction kind of a mode. And it's not going to get any better as long as there are wars and rumors of wars going on right now. The stock market doesn't like the uncertainty that war brings, even though there are folks that are on the money side of this that are really hoping that there's going to be a next big war, so that the big military contractors and a lot of our taxpayer dollars are going to be going into the defense, into the offense, into the military spending, the industrial military complex, all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how that plays out over time. But for right now, the losers have been us, the U.S. citizens, the Ukrainians, the people, the citizenry in the Ukraine. Just terrible for them. And we ain't seen nothing yet. Right now, I think I'm looking at a pretty good size reduction in my retirement portfolio, because a lot of it's invested in stocks and bonds, and things aren't going real well. The valuation is declining, and inflation is going up. So when you've got your income going down and you got your expenses going up, natural gas, gasoline for your vehicles, electricity costs, supply costs, housing, food, shelter, you name it. They're going in opposite directions. The gap is widening, and it's affecting us all. The rest of the economy and the rest of the country, pretty much dire straits the way I figure it right now. As I look at the issues surrounding immigration and the problems at our southern border, I see that a lot of the liberal and lefty pundits are trying to blame all that on Donald Trump, because his policies were so cruel and inhumane that people were being left out in the desert, and they were being housed in tents or whatever, cages, I guess, was some of the stuff, and that people were having their children ripped away from their loving arms and all that. Well, I don't believe that any of that was true, factual, or factually reported. There may have been some issues here and there, but I think it got blown way out of proportion. And what's going on right now is 100 times worse, because there's millions and millions of people crossing the border, coming from dozens and dozens of different states and countries around the world. They're invading our borders, and the Biden administration's not doing a thing about it. That has a direct negative effect on us as U.S. citizens. I think I'm starting to feel the impact of it right here in my own backyard, because low-income housing is being forced into this beautiful residential area that we've got here. And I've got a video where I showed some evidence of that recently. So I'm a little concerned about the total overall impact, and can we actually stand another 3 years of this kind of nonsense? We'll see. We've got an election coming, the midterms in November of 2022, and I would urge everyone to make sure that you vote for the right stuff to do. The rest of it, I think, is really an urge, a pleading to this audience to make sure that if you've got a couple of extra bucks, that you're investing that couple of extra bucks in your future, in your preps, for food, for water, for defense, for property defense, for self-defense, for making sure that you've got enough stockpiled food, water, shelter, first aid, medical supplies, you name it. Make sure that you've got enough to last through a crisis. We're not over with this yet. In fact, I think it's just beginning. It's a terrifying thought that we've got the situation in 1 year that has deteriorated from going in a very positive direction with inflation at less than 2%. I think it was 1.9 when Trump left office, and now it's pushing 10%. So that's just a year. God knows what it's going to be like this time next year with the war going on in Europe. Who knows? Whatever. I'm praying for peace. I hope there is peace. I hope that cool minds prevail in this situation. But given the stuff that's going on and the social media feeds that I've been seeing, where it seems like everybody is trying to either deflect, everybody, I'm talking about folks on the progressive side, the lefties, they're trying to deflect away from the reality of what's really going on here in the country with inflation and immigration and the rising crime stats and issues with this and issues with that. They're trying to deflect, and they're trying to blame the previous administration on all the current problems. I've seen posts from different folks that I know are left-leaning, that are not, that may be actually pure left communists, that are actually blaming Trump for the border crisis, for the situation in Ukraine, for the economy the way it's going. And none of it rings true at all for me. So my final pledge, my final urge to you all as preppers, get prepared, get more prepared than you think you need, and make sure that we can make it through this so we can rebuild this country the way it was founded. This is the Prepared Suburbanite, reminding you to be prepared always. And I'll see you all on the next video.